The day Earth's comm systems lit up with the terrible news was like any other. People went about their daily lives, unaware that everything was about to change. It was 7:43 a.m. Universal Earth time when the first reports came in. Jake Morrison, a low-level analyst at the Terran Space Command, was the first human to see the message. His eyes widened as he read the report from one of humanity's farthest colonies. His hand shook as he pressed the alarm button. Within minutes, the news spread like wildfire. Galactic Council ships had appeared over multiple human colony worlds. Without warning, they opened fire on schools, hospitals, and residential areas. Millions of children were dead. As the reality of the situation sank in, the disbelief turned to horror, and then to rage. Humanity had been part of the Galactic Council for only 50 years. They were the newcomers, still finding their place among the stars. Now, this betrayal threatened to undo everything. Emergency meetings were called in every major city on Earth. In New York, the United Nations building was surrounded by angry protesters demanding action. Similar scenes played out in London, Beijing, Moscow, and countless other cities across the globe. Sarah Chen, the Secretary General of the UN, stood before the General Assembly. Her face was grim as she addressed the gathered leaders and the billions watching the live broadcast. "Today, we face the gravest crisis in human history," she began, her voice steady despite the weight of her words. "The Galactic Council, an organization we trusted, has committed an act of unspeakable evil against our children. We demand answers, and we demand justice." As she spoke, reports continued to pour in from the affected colonies. The death toll rose with each passing hour. Survivors spoke of the horror they had witnessed. Massive ships appearing in the sky, their weapons turning populated areas into infernos. On Novaterra, one of the hardest-hit colonies, a young girl named Emily huddled in the ruins of her school. She had watched as her friends and teachers were vaporized by the alien weapons. Now she waited in terror, wondering if the attackers would return. Back on Earth, military leaders gathered at the Pentagon to discuss their options. General Michael Rodriguez, head of the Terran Defense Force, slammed his fist on the table. "We need to strike back now," he shouted. "Every second we waste is another life lost." But Admiral Jowlin urged caution. "We don't know why this happened," she said. "We need more information before we risk all-out war with the entire Galactic Council." As the leaders argued, civilian ships were already being prepared for evacuation. Families rushed to spaceports, desperate to get their children off-world and away from potential attack sites. In orbit, the Terran Space Navy went on high alert. Ships that had once patrolled peacefully alongside Galactic Council vessels now trained their weapons on their former allies. Captain Amelia Donovan stood on the bridge of the TSS Defender, Earth's most advanced battleship. She watched as her crew prepared for battle, their faces a mix of determination and fear. "We swore to protect humanity," she told them. "No matter the enemy, no matter the odds, we will not fail." As the first day of the crisis drew to a close, humanity found itself united in grief and anger. The species that had reached for the stars now faced its darkest hour. The unthinkable had happened, and there would be no going back. In the depths of space, on a distant Galactic Council world, an emergency session was called. The attack on human colonies had not been sanctioned. Something had gone terribly wrong, and now the entire galaxy stood on the brink of war. As night fell on Earth, millions lit candles for the lost children. In the soft glow, they mourned, they raged, and they prepared. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new horrors, and perhaps the first steps toward understanding and revenge. The stars seemed colder that night as humanity looked to the heavens not with wonder, but with a new and terrible resolve. The Galactic Council had made an enemy of Earth, and they would soon learn the consequences of their actions. The second day dawned with a mix of dread and determination across Earth. As the initial shock wore off, humanity began to organize its response to the Galactic Council's attack. In Washington, D.C., President Olivia Reeves addressed the nation. Her voice was firm as she spoke to millions of anxious citizens. "We will not rest until we have answers and justice for our children," she declared. "I have authorized the mobilization of our entire fleet. We stand ready to defend Earth and our remaining colonies." Meanwhile, on the distant planet of Xanadu Prime, the seat of the Galactic Council, confusion reigned. High Counselor Zixtal, a tall, blue-skinned alien, called an emergency meeting. "How could this happen without our knowledge?" he demanded, his multiple eyes blinking rapidly. "We must contact the humans immediately." But Earth wasn't answering. All diplomatic channels had been cut off. Back on Earth, the Terran Space Navy prepared for war. Admiral Sarah Chen, no relation to the UN Secretary-General, stood aboard the flagship TSS Avenger. She watched as hundreds of ships formed up around Earth. "All ships, report status," she commanded. One by one, the captains checked in. Weapons were armed, shields were up. They were ready for anything. On Mars, the largest human colony in the solar system, panic was spreading. Governor John Martinez tried to calm the population. "We have increased our defenses," he announced, "but we need volunteers to help with evacuations. Our priority is saving lives." Thousands stepped forward, ready to help their fellow humans. As Earth prepared for war, a lone ship slipped out of hyperspace near the edge of the solar system. It was small, barely larger than a shuttle. On board was Krell, a young Galactic Council diplomat. "This is Krell of the Galactic Council," he broadcast. "I come in peace. Please, we need to talk." For hours, his message went unanswered. Earth's defenses tracked his ship but didn't fire. Finally, a response came. "Approach slowly," a gruff voice ordered. "Any sudden moves and we'll blast you out of the sky." Krell's ship was escorted to a space station orbiting Mars. As he stepped out, he found himself surrounded by armed guards. Their faces were hard, their weapons pointed directly at him. "I'm unarmed," Krell said, raising his four hands. "I'm here to explain. There's been a terrible mistake." On Earth, the news of Krell's arrival spread quickly. People gathered around screens, waiting for updates. Would this alien bring answers, or was it a trick? In a high-security room on the Mars station, Krell faced a panel of Earth's leaders. He could feel their anger, their pain. Taking a deep breath, he began to speak. "The attack on your colonies was not ordered by the Galactic Council," he said. "We believe a rogue faction within our military is responsible. We're as shocked as you are." The human leaders exchanged glances. Could they believe him? "Why should we trust you?" President Reeves asked, her voice cold. Krell pulled out a data crystal. "This contains all the information we have, including the names of those we suspect are behind this atrocity." As the data was analyzed, tension grew. If Krell was telling the truth, it meant the real enemy was still out there. If he was lying, Earth was walking into a trap. Hours passed as the information was verified. Finally, UN Secretary-General Chen made an announcement to the waiting world. "We have confirmed that the Galactic Council as a whole was not behind the attacks," she said, "but a dangerous faction within their ranks is responsible. We now face a common enemy." The news was met with mixed reactions. Some felt relief that the entire Galactic Council wasn't against them. Others were skeptical, believing it to be a ploy. As day turned to night, Earth's leaders faced a difficult decision. Should they trust Krell and work with the Galactic Council, or should they go it alone, seeking revenge against all who might be responsible? In orbit, the fleet awaited orders. On the colonies, survivors huddled in fear. And somewhere in the vast expanse of space, the true enemies plotted their next move. The galaxy held its breath, waiting to see what humanity would do next. The path to justice, or further bloodshed, lay ahead, and the choices made in the coming hours would shape the future of not just humanity, but all sentient species in the cosmos. The decision to work with Krell and the Galactic Council was not an easy one. Many humans still called for immediate retaliation, But in the end, the need for more information won out. Admiral Chen stood before a mixed crew of humans and aliens aboard the TSS Avenger. The ship had been chosen for a dangerous mission deep into Galactic Council space. "We're heading into unknown territory," she said, her voice firm. "Our goal is to find the rogue faction responsible for the attacks and bring them to justice. Trust will be essential." Krell, now serving as a liaison, nodded in agreement. He knew the fate of galactic peace rested on this mission's success. As the Avenger prepared to depart, a small team was assembled on Earth. Led by Dr. Emily Sato, a brilliant xenobiologist, they were tasked with studying the weapon used in the attacks. In her lab, Dr. Sato examined fragments recovered from the colony worlds. Her eyes widened as she made a startling discovery. "This isn't just a weapon," she muttered. "It's alive." Meanwhile, on the ravaged colony of New Eden, survivors were rebuilding. Among them was Jack Harper, a former teacher who had lost his entire class in the attack. As he helped clear rubble, Jack noticed something strange. Plants were growing at an impossible rate, pushing through the ashes of destroyed buildings. "Hey," he called to a nearby scientist. "You need to see this." Back in space, the Avenger entered the territory of the Zorn, a reclusive species known for their advanced biotechnology. Krell had suggested they might have information about the rogue faction. Captain Lisa Rodriguez eyed the approaching Zorn ships warily. "Be ready for anything," she told her crew. A transmission came through, and a hologram of a Zorn appeared on the bridge. Its insectoid features were unreadable to human eyes. "Why have you entered our space?" the Zorn demanded. Admiral Chen stepped forward. "We seek information about attacks on our worlds. Millions of our children are dead." The Zorn was silent for a long moment. Then, to everyone's surprise, it said, "We know of these attacks. We have been expecting you." On Earth, Dr. Sato's team worked frantically to understand their discovery. The weapon wasn't just alive, it was evolving. "It's adapting to the environments it destroyed," Dr. Sato explained to UN leaders. "But why? What's its purpose?" As she spoke, reports came in from New Eden and other attacked colonies. Strange plants and creatures were appearing, unlike anything seen before. In the Zorn territory, the Avengers crew listened in shock as the alien revealed what it knew. "The faction you seek is not just from the Galactic Council," the Zorn explained. "They come from many species, united in a terrible purpose." "What purpose?" Admiral Chen asked, dreading the answer. "To remake the galaxy in their image," the Zorn replied. "Your children were not just victims. They were raw materials." Horror swept through the ship as the implications became clear. The attacks weren't just an act of violence. They were the first step in a galaxy-wide transformation. Back on New Eden, Jack Harper watched in amazement as the new life forms continued to spread. But his wonder turned to fear as he noticed something about the plants' patterns. They were forming structures, unnatural, alien structures. As the third day since the attacks drew to a close, humanity found itself facing a threat beyond anything they had imagined. It wasn't just a rogue faction they were fighting, but a plan to reshape all of known space. In her lab, Dr. Sato made a chilling prediction. "If we don't stop this soon, there might not be a galaxy left to save." Aboard the Avenger, Admiral Chen turned to her crew, her face set with determination. "We started this mission looking for justice," she said. "Now we're fighting for the future of all life as we know it." As news of these discoveries spread, the people of Earth and its colonies steeled themselves for the fight ahead. The loss of their children had been only the beginning. The true battle for survival was about to begin. The revelation that the galaxy faced a threat of unimaginable scale sent shockwaves through Earth and its colonies. The desire for revenge was now coupled with a desperate need to survive. On New Eden, Jack Harper led a team of scientists studying the rapidly evolving alien structures. They worked tirelessly, knowing that understanding these changes could be key to humanity's survival. "Look at this," Jack said, pointing to a pulsing, organic tower. It's not just growing. It's communicating. Dr. Lena Patel, a xenobiologist, scanned the structure. Her eyes widened as data flooded her tablet. These signals, they're reaching into space, but where are they going? Meanwhile, aboard the TSS Avenger, Admiral Chen and her crew prepared for a dangerous mission. The Zorn had provided coordinates to a hidden base where the rogue faction was believed to be operating. This could be a trap, Captain Rodriguez warned as they approached the location. Admiral Chen nodded grimly. It could be, but it's our best lead. All hands, prepare for potential engagement. As the Avenger dropped out of hyperspace, they found themselves face to face with a massive space station unlike anything they'd ever seen. It pulsed with an eerie organic light. By the stars, Krell whispered, his alien features twisted in horror. It's already begun. Back on Earth, Dr. Emily Seto made a breakthrough in her research on the weapon fragments. She rushed to present her findings to the United Earth Council. The weapon isn't just destroying, she explained, her voice urgent. It's reprogramming matter at the molecular level. It's turning everything it touches into seeds. Seeds for what? A council member asked, dread in his voice. Dr. Seto's face was grim. For a new kind of life, one that could overwrite everything we know. As the council debated their next move, a distress call came in from Mars Colony. Governor Martinez's voice crackled over the comm. We're under attack, but not by ships. The ground itself is turning against us. On Mars, colonists fought a losing battle against rapidly growing alien structures. Buildings were engulfed, and people ran in terror as the very soil beneath their feet began to shift and change. Sarah Osaka, a young engineer, led a group of survivors towards the emergency shelters. As they ran, she noticed something strange about the attacking life forms. They're not just destroying, she shouted to the others. They're rebuilding. It's like they're following a plan. In orbit around the alien space station, the Avengers crew watched in horror as more ships arrived. But these weren't ordinary vessels. They were alive, pulsing with the same eerie light as the station. We're outnumbered, Captain Rodriguez reported. What are your orders, Admiral? Admiral Chen stood silent for a moment, weighing their options. Then, with steel in her voice, she said, we didn't come this far to turn back. Prepare boarding parties. We're going in. As Earth's forces prepared for what could be their final stand, Jack Harper made a startling discovery on New Eden. The alien structures weren't just communicating. They were creating a network. It's like a new nervous system, he explained to his team. Not for a body, but for an entire planet. Dr. Patel gasped as she realized the implications. If this spreads to other worlds, then the entire galaxy could become one giant, living organism, Jack finished. As this news spread, panic gripped the surviving colonies. But amidst the fear, pockets of resistance formed. Humans and aliens alike realized that their only hope lay in working together. On a distant world, untouched by the conflict, a group of refugee children from the attacked colonies huddled together. Among them was Emily, the girl who had survived the initial attack. As the adults argued about what to do next, Emily stood up. We can't just hide, she said, her young voice filled with determination. Our parents, our friends, they're all counting on us. We have to fight back. Her words sparked a fire in the group. These children, survivors of an unthinkable tragedy, were ready to take a stand. As the fourth day since the attacks dawned, the galaxy stood on the brink. On one side, a force threatening to rewrite the very nature of existence. On the other, an unlikely alliance of species fighting for their right to live as they were. The next few hours would determine the fate of not just humanity, but all life as they knew it. The alien space station loomed before the TSS Avenger, its organic surface pulsing with an otherworldly light. Admiral Chen led the boarding party, her heart pounding as they prepared to enter the unknown. Remember, she said to her team. We're not just fighting for Earth anymore. The fate of the entire galaxy rests on this mission. As they breached the station's outer layer, they found themselves in a nightmarish landscape of twisting corridors and pulsating walls. It was as if they had entered a giant, living organism. Meanwhile, on Mars, the situation was growing desperate. Sarah Osaka and her team of engineers worked frantically to modify their equipment to fight back against the spreading alien growth. If we can disrupt its communication network, Sarah explained, her hands flying over a control panel, we might be able to slow it down. As her device powered up, the alien structures nearby began to writhe and twist. For a moment, hope flared in the hearts of the Martian colonists. Back on Earth, Dr. Emily Sato made a startling discovery. She burst into the United Earth Council chamber, her eyes wide with excitement and fear. "The children," she exclaimed. "The weapon didn't just target them randomly. It was selecting for specific genetic traits." The council members looked at her in confusion. "What do you mean?" one asked. Dr. Sato took a deep breath. I think the enemy is trying to create a new form of life, a hybrid of their technology and our biology. And our children were the perfect starting point." As this revelation sent shockwaves through Earth's leadership on New Eden, Jack Harper and Dr. Lena Patel had a breakthrough of their own. "Look at this," Jack said, pointing to a holographic display. "The alien structures. They're not just communicating. They're dreaming." Dr. Patel leaned in, her eyes widening. "It's like they're imagining what they want to become, and then making it real." Their discovery opened up a new possibility. If they could understand these dreams, could they change them? Could they guide the alien growth in a less destructive direction? In the refugee camp, young Emily and her friends had formed a plan. Using salvaged communication equipment, they began broadcasting a message to other surviving children across the colonies. "We are the future." Emily's voice rang out, clear and determined. "We won't let them take that away from us. It's time to fight back." Aboard the alien station, Admiral Chen and her team pushed deeper into its core. They encountered strange, hybrid creatures, part machine, part organic matter. With each step, the horror of what they were facing became clearer. "Look!" Krell suddenly exclaimed, pointing ahead. In a vast chamber, they saw rows upon rows of pods. Inside each one was a child, connected to the station by pulsing organic tubes. "There, transforming them," Captain Rodriguez whispered, her voice choked with emotion. Admiral Chen's face hardened. "Then we'll stop it, no matter the cost." As they prepared to fight their way to the station's control center, alarms began to blare. The station shuddered, and a voice boomed through its organic speakers. "Foolish creatures," it said, its tone a mixture of amusement and disdain. "You cannot stop evolution. You are merely the raw materials for a greater future." On Mars, Sarah's device seemed to be working. The alien growth had slowed, but now it was changing tactics. Instead of overwhelming them, it began to retreat, condensing into more complex forms. "It's adapting," Sarah shouted. "We need to push harder." Across the galaxy, battles raged on countless worlds. Species that had once been enemies now fought side by side against a common threat. The line between organic and artificial blurred as the alien technology spread. But amidst the chaos, hope began to grow. Dr. Sato's research on Earth, Jack and Lena's discoveries on New Eden, Sarah's technological breakthrough on Mars, and the determination of children like Emily. All of these were pieces of a puzzle that could save the galaxy. As the 5th day since the initial attack dawned, the universe held its breath. The next few hours would determine whether life as they knew it would survive, or if a new, unimaginable form of existence would take its place. In the heart of the alien station, Admiral Chen raised her weapon, ready to face whatever came next. "For our children," she said softly. "For our future." And with that, they charged forward, into the unknown. Admiral Chen and her team fought their way through the alien station's twisting corridors. Each step brought them closer to the control center, but also deeper into danger. "Watch out," Krell shouted, pushing a human soldier out of the way as a tendril of living metal lashed out from the wall. Captain Rodriguez blasted the tendril with her energy rifle. "These things are getting smarter," she panted. "It's like the whole station is fighting us." Meanwhile, on Earth, Dr. Emily Seto worked frantically to turn her discovery into a weapon. She knew the key to stopping the alien threat lay in the very genetic code it was trying to manipulate. "If we can introduce a disruptive element into their transformation process," she explained to her team, "we might be able to shut down their entire network." As Dr. Seto's team raced against time, on Mars, Sarah Osaka faced a new challenge. The alien growth had indeed adapted to her disruptive device, but not in the way they expected. "It's communicating with our technology," Sarah said in awe as she watched her screens flicker with strange symbols. "It's trying to merge with our systems." Across the galaxy, on New Eden, Jack Harper and Dr. Lena Patel made a bold decision. If the alien structures were indeed dreaming of what they wanted to become, perhaps they could influence those dreams. "It's risky," Jack warned as they prepared their makeshift dream interface device. "We don't know what will happen to us." Lena nodded grimly. "But if we can change their path from within, it might be our best chance." As the two scientists connected themselves to the alien network, their minds were flooded with overwhelming visions of a universe reshaped and reborn. In the refugee camp, young Emily's call to action had sparked a movement. Children across the colonies were fighting back in their own way, using their unique perspectives to find weaknesses in the alien strategy. "They think like grown-ups," Emily told her friends as they huddled around a makeshift command center. "But we can think differently. We can surprise them." Aboard the alien station, Admiral Chen's team finally reached the central chamber. What they saw there stopped them in their tracks. The room was filled with swirling energy. At its center, a being unlike anything they had ever seen. It was neither fully organic nor machine, but a perfect blend of both. "Welcome, children of the old universe," the being spoke, its voice resonating in their minds. "You stand at the threshold of a new era." Admiral Chen stepped forward, her weapon raised. "We're here to stop you," she declared, "to save our children and our way of life." The being seemed to smile, though it had no discernible face. "Stop us. You cannot stop evolution. We are the next step, the perfect fusion of all life in the galaxy." As they faced this godlike entity, each member of the team felt doubt creep into their hearts. Could they really fight against the tide of evolution itself? But then, something unexpected happened. The station shuddered, and the swirling energy flickered. On New Eden, Jack and Lena's minds touched the core of the alien consciousness. Through sheer force of will, they began to reshape its dreams, showing it visions of a future where diversity and individual choice were preserved. On Mars, Sarah's technology merged with the alien systems, creating a feedback loop that confused and disrupted the transformation process. And on Earth, Dr. Seto's team finally cracked the code. They broadcast a signal that spread through the alien network, introducing chaos into its perfectly ordered system. The being in the central chamber writhed in confusion. What are you doing?" it demanded, its voice no longer confident. Admiral Chen saw her chance. She fired her weapon, not at the being, but at the control systems around it. As alarms blared and the station began to shake apart, Chen turned to her team. "We've given the galaxy a chance," she shouted over the noise. "Now let's get out of here." They ran for their ship, the station collapsing around them. As they escaped into space, they saw other alien structures across the galaxy beginning to falter and fail. The battle was far from over, but for the first time since the terrible attack that started it all, there was real hope. Humanity, along with its allies, had struck a decisive blow against a threat to all life. As the sixth day dawned, the galaxy looked to an uncertain but hopeful future. The fight to reclaim their children and their destiny had only just begun. The days following the destruction of the alien station were filled with chaos and hope. Across the galaxy, the hybrid structures began to falter, but the fight was far from over. On Earth, Dr. Emily Seto worked tirelessly to refine her disruptive signal. "We've confused their network," she explained to the United Earth Council, "but we need to find a way to reverse the transformation process." Meanwhile, on Mars, Sarah Osaka made a breakthrough. By merging human technology with the alien systems, she created a new kind of interface. "We can communicate with the transformed areas," she announced excitedly. "Maybe even control them." On New Eden, Jack Harper and Dr. Lena Patel recovered from their mind-melding experience with the alien consciousness. They brought back crucial information. "The alien intelligence, it's not evil," Jack said, his voice weak but determined. "It's just different. It thought it was helping life evolve." Lena nodded. "If we can make it understand us, maybe we can find a way to coexist." In the refugee camps, Emily and her young friends continued to rally the children of the galaxy. Their unique perspective proved invaluable in predicting the alien technology's adaptive behaviors. "They think like a big, complicated machine," Emily explained to the adults. "But we can see the simple patterns they miss." Admiral Chen, now hailed as a hero across the galaxy, knew that military might alone wouldn't win this war. She called for a summit of all sentient species, even those who had once been enemies. "We face extinction," she told the assembled leaders. "Our only hope is to stand united." As the summit convened, a message arrived from the heart of the transformed territories. It was from the children who had been taken, their minds now linked to the alien network. "We are changing," the message read, "but we are still us. Help us find a way back." This message galvanized the galaxy. With renewed determination, Dr. Seto and her team perfected a reversal process. Sarah's interface allowed them to apply it precisely, gradually reclaiming transformed areas. Jack and Lena, using their connection to the alien mind, began a dialogue. Slowly, understanding grew on both sides. Weeks turned into months. Battles were fought not just with weapons, but with ideas and innovations. Gradually, the tide began to turn. One by one, transformed children were rescued and restored. Each success brought tears of joy and renewed hope. But the alien intelligence wasn't defeated. As it came to understand the diversity of life in the galaxy, it began to change its approach. On a small, neutral planet, representatives of all species gathered. Among them were fully transformed beings, partially restored children, and the alien intelligence itself, now embodied in a form that could communicate directly. Emily, now recognized as a leader among the galaxy's youth, stood to address the gathering. "We've all changed," she said, her young voice carrying wisdom beyond her years. "We can't go back to how things were, but we can go forward together." The alien intelligence spoke next. "We sought to unite all life," it said. "We now see that unity doesn't mean sameness. Your diversity is your strength." Over the following days, a new galactic accord was forged. The alien technology would be carefully used to heal worlds and enhance life, but always with respect for individual choice and the value of diversity. The children who had been taken became a bridge between the old and the new. Their unique perspective helped shape a future where organic and artificial life could coexist and thrive. As for the rogue faction that had started it all, they were brought to justice. But the trial became a forum for understanding, not just punishment. Years later, Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of a new ship, marveling at how far they had come. Beside her stood Krell, Jack, Lena, Sarah, and Emily, now a young adult. "We thought we were fighting for revenge," Chen said, looking out at the stars. "But in the end, we found something greater: understanding." As their ship cruised through space, they passed worlds teeming with life both familiar and wonderfully strange. The galaxy had been transformed, not by force, but by the combined will of all its inhabitants. The children who were lost were never forgotten, but their legacy lived on in a universe more vibrant and diverse than ever before. And somewhere out there, new adventures and challenges waited in a future limited only by imagination.